Thank you for showing up. Where were you guys in February when we had our usual meeting? You're probably wondering why we're in this room and not in the gym. They refinished that beautiful wood floor in there, and the varnish takes 3 weeks to dry before we can walk on it. So the timing wasn't optimal. So here we are. So get to know your neighbors. It's going to be a fun, friendly day. Because of the number of people in here, we have to have a safety announcement. So Fire Chief Rick Walker, wherever you're hiding, will come up here and talk about safety procedures.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for coming out today. In the event of a fire alarm activation, please exit to there's exit doors here, or you can go right out through where the police chief is. There's an exit there. It'll take you right out of the building. We'll do an orderly evacuation from the building as soon as we determine the problem and reset the system. We'll let that, my apologies, we'll put the meeting back into play. Thank you.
Thank you, Rick. I'd like to introduce the people up front here. I'm Ron St. Jean, the town moderator. Over here we have Tiffany Cottle, the municipal office administrator. Rebecca Nelson, assistant town clerk. I don't even put you on here. Kim Karakis. I skipped her. Kim Karakis, town clerk. Walter Mitchell from the town's municipal attorney group. Connor McIver, town administrator. Joyce Capiello, select person. Robert Gibson, select person. James Sakosia, select person. George Bailey, select person. Danon Manshrek, chair of the select board. And Laura Spector Morgan, another member of the municipal attorney group. Also, behind the curtain here, we have Nick Sarvey from New England Mobile Audio, who are providing the audio and visual services for today. Select person Manshrek will open the meeting formally.
It's been traditional for select board meetings and other public meetings that we give.
You gotta get that mic closer.
Sorry, better? Okay. It's been traditional that we have a pledge allegiance to the flag. So if you will join me in pledge allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much for attendance, Mr. St. Jean.
Okay, thank you, Danon. And looking at Facebook, where everybody gets their information over the last few days, notice there's been an awful lot of misinformation about how deliberative sessions work, how town meetings work. So I'd like to go over that a little bit so everybody has the same information, hopefully the correct information. New England towns first adopted the town meeting form of government about 400 years ago. Over the years, there have been some modifications, but the process of citizens getting together, debating issues, and voting on a course of action is still a favored way to run a town. In 1997, Barrington voters adopted the official ballot referendum version of town meeting. Instead of the traditional format of debating and voting on articles all on one often very long day, we discuss or deliberate all of the articles on one day and vote on those articles by official ballot from 28 to 60 days later. Both parts of the meeting are required, neither is optional. At a deliberative session, the town's legislative body, consisting of the registered voters in attendance, may make amendments to most articles. Amendments may change the intent of an article, but must maintain the subject matter of the original article. This process is not trickery by proponents or opponents of an article. It is in compliance with guidelines developed by the New Hampshire legislature. People are passionate about their positions and beliefs, and may be upset when their position isn't supported by the majority or the law. But for generations, this system has been working, and will continue to work as long as we can agree to do what is best for the town. I'd like to go over my brief rules for how this session will run. The moderator follows the rules of order detailed below. Voters have the right to challenge the moderator's rules and rulings. Number 2, only registered voters, town supervisory employees, and the town's attorneys will be allowed to speak. After the article is introduced, the petitioner will have an opportunity to speak about the article for up to 20 minutes. Then the town's attorney will be recognized for comments, followed by the select board members, then comments from the floor. Any amendments offered must not change the subject of the original article. The moderator may limit debate. Comments should be concise and relevant to the article under discussion and not redundant. That means only one person needs to say any particular thing. Don't repeat what somebody else says, or we'll be here for days. Only discussion pertaining to the posted article and proposed amendments will be allowed. Speakers' comments will be limited to 3 minutes. Personal attacks are not allowed. All debate and questions will be through the moderator. Speakers must show their voting card and be recognized by the moderator before speaking. Speakers must state their name and address when they come to the mic. And there are 2 mics for crowd use. There's one here. Oh, they're both down here. Okay, thought one was up above. All right, complicated motions should be submitted in writing. Amendments must be moved and seconded before discussion. Only one amendment will be considered at a time. Voting on proposed amendments will be by secret ballot. Hand votes will be taken for procedural matters. And when we vote by secret ballot, it's going to be out in the hall, out that back door. You will need to check in again with the supervisors, get your ballot, and we have a ballot box out there. After any vote passes, voters may move to restrict reconsideration of the vote or the article. If the motion to restrict reconsideration passes, there could be no further discussion of the article. And except for emergency personnel, please silence your electronic devices. All right, I will read the warrant article that we are considering today by petition. To see if the town will vote to compel the Barrington Board of Selectmen to remove Connor McIver from his position as town administrator and Peter Royce from his position as town treasurer for reasons regarding some or all of the following. By showing bias towards a growing disabled veteran-owned and operated business, 2A Tactical, which was ruled by the ZBA twice to be operating in full compliance with current zoning rules. By supporting a failed, frivolous, and costly lawsuit against said business, which was ultimately dropped by the town and would have served only to destroy a thriving Barrington business. By engaging in conduct that is unbecoming of the high standards of what residents of Barrington want their public servants to be held to, and other issues relating to ethics, transparency, and right-to-know laws. Further, Connor McIver and Peter Royce would be prohibited from rehire and from serving in any public capacity, paid, voluntary, or otherwise, for the town of Barrington in perpetuity. The petitioner will have up to 20 minutes for a presentation in support of his article. Yep, come on up. You state your name and address when you get there, if you would. Yep. That's one of those electronic devices that we'd like silenced.
Hello? All right, we up? Okay, most of you do know me, but my name is Robert Russell. I live at 99 Toll End Road in Barrington. A long time ago, I took a instructor class, and they had a retired FBI guy teaching, and he said never to drink while you're speaking to an audience, to the FBI. All right, let's get down to business. They only gave me 20 minutes here to talk. How many of you have read all or part of the 62-page document I sent to the county attorney's office? Okay. There is currently an open and active investigation into the town,
If you do not know that, that is the case. I met directly and in person with County Attorney Tom Velarde almost a month ago at the Barrington Police Station. He came out personally. We met for almost an hour. I spoke to him or contacted him by email just about a week ago and confirmed that the investigation is still open and still active. Obviously, I don't know how it's going to end. I don't know what is going to come from it. And those involved are certainly innocent until proven guilty. All right, today, just so you understand, the only vote, as I understand it, is to amend the warrant article that Ron just read, the one that I wrote. So if you vote, and I'm not telling anyone how to vote, but if you vote for an amendment, it is going to be to change this article, this warrant article. So if you support this as it is now, going to vote in October, okay, the vote will only be to change it, all right? And the other thing with these meetings, and Ron, correct me if I'm wrong, but there's a saying, it's not over till it's over. So there could be multiple votes at the same meeting. So until somebody does a motion to end the business for the day, don't leave, because they can actually hold another vote after people have left. All right, let me take you back to a hot and sunny day in August in Afghanistan on the 28th, 2011 at 16:12 hours. I was on patrol, and I took a hit from an IED. A minute later, I was struck by another IED. Why am I telling you this story? Okay, we're talking like 13 years, almost 14 years ago. Those events would directly connect me to why I'm standing here in front of all you today. Little did I know. In an instant, my life was changed forever. And when I came home, I began to put back the pieces of my life. I went back to Dover Police as a police officer. And for various reasons, I was terminated, fired from my job in 2013. I was placed on the Lorry list. I was decertified as a cop. Okay, I've been telling people for years this isn't new news. I had issues with alcohol, PTSD, and other things, and it was tough. In fact, coming home was harder than anything I fought overseas, to be perfectly honest. As a husband, a father, I had to come up with something, so I came up with this business. Among other things, I couldn't drive for a couple years due to my seizures. I met with John Huckins. I got my home occupation permit. I started the business out of my home. I was a fully disabled veteran. The business began to grow after 2015 when I opened it. I don't have a business degree. I did my best, okay? I tried to learn the rules. If you've read the Barrington zoning rules and laws, they're large. We grew. I added help. We grew further. I added more help. I started to realize that we would need to find a new home. And then COVID hit, and we could not have been busier. As businesses were shuttering, as businesses were going broke and closing their doors, we were growing. And the majority of my employees were also disabled vets. But what I never planned for was the war that would start back at home against my business. I thought I'd be able to say I had never met Peter Royce today, but I actually met him in the line today for the first time. I shook his hand. I will tell you, he was pleasant. I said hi, he said hello, I called him my neighbor. Up until this point, that is the only time I've ever laid eyes on the man. Peter Royce was upset about my business. He was upset about the cars on the road. He began to walk around to my neighbors, distributing emails, sensitive internal Barrington emails, and telling people how my business was ruining the neighborhood. Peter Royce is a very connected man in Barrington. From what I understand, he's been in Barrington politics for half a century. And I'm not saying he's a bad person. My entire view of Peter Royce is from my experience with my business and the brief moment I met him today. I know someone's timing me. Can you let me know when I'm at 10 minutes?
Yep.
Please? So he began to walk to my neighbors. He began to try to drum up support. Peter lives, I don't know, a quarter or half a mile down the road. I call him a neighbor, I guess. He's certainly not in a butter. He then emailed heads of departments, and he filed what I guess was an initial complaint. Shortly after that, the town built a parking lot in front of my house. Not on my request, on Peter Royce's request. Okay? The town spent your money in nearly a full day with dump trucks and excavators laying down stone and gravel because Peter Royce was concerned that the cars were doing damage to the road. And now they are turning this around on me like I somehow benefit from this. I was told that we're going to do this, and by the way, Rob, you now have to maintain the road, which I thought, that's awfully strange. When do I have to maintain the road? This is a public road, toll end road. As this nightmare, hold on, I turned to the wrong page. Okay. As this nightmare began to go, and we realized that the town was after us, and we were forced to go to the zoning board, we realized something was up. And I soon learned that this whole thing started with Peter Royce. My attorney contacted the town attorney and asked him to stop meddling. And the town attorney sent an email saying he's a private citizen. He maintains those rights. And yes, he most certainly does. Of course he does. But the problem is he wasn't just using his rights as a private citizen. He was going well above and beyond. He was flexing his muscle. He was utilizing his connections. And he was getting things done with a complaint that none of you would ever get done if you made a similar complaint. When I did a right to know request, because the number one issue was the cars parked on the road, I made a right to know request with the police department. And I found out since 2015, and this amazed me, there had been exactly 0 parking or traffic complaints relating to my business or my home. 0. You know what Connor said? Well, they call me. Okay, well, if they call you, you need to forward that to the police department. Because, Connor, you're not a cop, last time I checked. When things didn't go Peter's way, he continued to email, and I will show you all where you can get copies of all these emails. He continued to email the heads of departments. He specifically complained about the bouncy houses we had at one of our yearly events. Once a year, we would hold a pig roast. And in his email, he specifically cited the bouncy houses as part of his complaint. He also specifically stated that due to the bouncy houses, parking, and other issues, things were getting pretty horrible. Well, I'll tell you something. I have been to war, and I know many of you have. If cars on the road and bouncy houses are what he describes as pretty horrible, then I envy his life. The town told us, the town attorney told us that our relief, and that's a very specific legal word, was to go to the ZBA, to the zoning board, and request a variance. That was our only relief to not get sued. So we did. We filed to go into, I believe it was in October, I think it was actually earlier, September, to be on the ZBA. The town, on the letter, the 2-page report that they put out, the date that they issued was the date that the Board of Selectmen authorized the lawsuit. That way it looks as though we were served the lawsuit before we put in for the zoning board.
10 minutes.
I don't have thank you. I don't have ESP. They didn't tell us. I specifically have the emails with the town attorney saying, go to the ZBA to avoid getting sued. So my lawyer drove from wherever they are, Hudson, Mass or whatever, thousands of dollars to go file for the ZBA. We were accepted in, and then the lawsuit shows up. The town wants you to think that the chicken came before the egg. It did not. It is the exact opposite. They told us one thing, and then they went back. And let's talk about this lawsuit for a second. The lawsuit was asking two things that were extraordinary. It was asking for an emergency injunction from a Stratford County Superior Court judge to shut us down immediately. And it was asking for $40,000 from my wife and I to be sent to the town attorney to an abatement account. We don't have 40 grand sitting around. Okay, I've never paid myself at my business. I'm more concerned with paying my employees. All right? And just so you understand that emergency injunction, that would be requested at the arraignment. So the equivalent of an arraignment, you have 30 minutes before the judge. We may not have seen the trial for 6 to 12 months, and they were requesting an emergency injunction, which would have shut us down on the spot. Where was the emergency? Were we dumping barrels of toxic chemicals in the backyard? What were we doing that was emergent? Absolutely nothing. They could have allowed it to go to court, but frankly, there was no need at all for the lawsuit. Unbelievable waste of our money and your money. They want to talk about the $20,000 that this and the follow-on meeting allegedly cost. How about the cost to the taxpayers of that lawsuit, of all that time, of all those meetings? They're going to tell you that, oh, the lawsuit didn't cost any money because the $6,000 that the town attorney charged the town was part of the legal, the legal budget. That's like telling our road agent to pave a road into nowhere. Well, it was part of the road budget, but the road ends up in a dead end. There's no houses on it. But it was part of the budget. No, it was a complete waste of all of your money. And had they not sued us, I would not be here today telling you all about it. Unbelievable. One of Connor's jobs was to brief, let me know when we're at 5, please. One of Connor's jobs was to brief the Board of Selectmen, to let them know what was going on. Well, if you go to my website, and this is not a sales pitch, 2atac.com, the number 2, the letter A, and then TAC, like Tango Alpha Charlie.com. Right at the top of the page, we don't sell anything on my website. I think there's t-shirts. We don't sell any gun stuff, okay? You can click on the same 62-page PDF report that I sent to County Attorney Tom Velarde, and I also gave to him in hand, okay? He would cherry pick the information that he gave to the Board of Selectmen, and I will say quite a few of these selectmen were not seated at that time. For instance, the police report that George Joy, a very honorable police chief, provided that said there was 0 parking complaints. He chose never once to provide that to the selectmen. And he still told the selectmen that the parking was a significant issue. It is unbelievable how much Connor did not want to hurt his baby of a lawsuit. Anything he could to puff it up. It was like a balloon that had holes in it, and he's desperately trying to keep it blown up. It was unbelievable. And every single thing I am saying today, I didn't have time, 20 minutes. I didn't have time. This is a 2+ year nightmare. If you go to the website, if you've seen that document, everything I say is supported. Connor received 2 letters from one of my neighbors, not in the butter, but just down the street and behind my house. The 2 letters stated that he was too afraid to put his children outside of his home, his young children, because we were firing semi-automatic and machine guns in my backyard daily. Daily. Connor didn't get 1 letter, he got 2. And I can tell you exactly what Connor did not do with that letter. What a unbelievable public safety hazard that would be if we were firing machine guns in my backyard.
5 minutes, Rob.
Thank you. In a compact neighborhood. What did he never do with those letters? I can tell you what he didn't do. He never reported them to the chief of police or any law enforcement official at all. Do you know why? Because the letter was 100% fabricated. I don't shoot anything in my backyard. If I was firing machine guns, there would be 52 calls in a minute. It was 1 letter that supported his bogus lawsuit, and he knew if he sent it to the police chief, it would instantly be unfounded. Here's a good one. On the ZBA page for the town's website, We had 11 letters supporting from neighbors and one local business, and there were 6 letters against our business. One from a guy that lived on the Stratford border. I think it was 6.3 miles from my business. Well, that is the equivalent of a right to know page. Guess what? They published one letter, a single letter from my supporters, and they published 7 letters from those against. They published one letter twice. I have still to this day, Connor will not tell me who the data entry person is. So whoever it was, they were so inept that they were 116% correct on the letters against and 9% in error on the letters for. So there was a public relations campaign. If any of you wanted to see, oh, how many supporters were there for 2A Tactical, you would go, oh, 1 supporter and 7 against. Sounds pretty one-sided. I got to sum this up. They're going to tell you, they're going to try to distract you with the cost of the town meeting. They're going to try to tell you that it doesn't mean anything and these guys are not bound. And that may be legally true. The will of the people means something. If the town votes and says that these 2 should be removed, then they should be removed. And if these Board of Selectmen are truly the voice of the people, and if they do not listen to a majority town vote, then they should not be selectmen. I've barely touched the surface on these issues with the time allotted here. Please fact check everything I've said, everything I've said. And those of you that will list the big list of all the great things these men have done, I say put them in for an award. But none of that gives them a free pass for what they've done for my business. And since I've done this, the many small business owners that have come to me and said, thank God someone is finally holding these men to account because they have done this so many times before. I cannot tell you how much support, to include town business employees and other current town business owners. The vote means something. This article should not be amended. And those of you that want to support them, I support you having the vote. But if you're only thinking of the good things they've done, I'm sorry, but you're blind to what happened with my business and others. That's all I have. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Rob. I just want to make it clear, there's some question about whether something will go to a vote in October. Whatever form the article is in after this meeting will be on the ballot in October. We will be voting on that article. There's no option to not vote in October, okay? Select person, no, not select person, I'm sorry. Town Attorney Laura Spector-Morgan, I believe, will have a comment. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you for giving up part of your Saturday to be here. I've been asked to speak to the, certainly. I've been asked to speak to the legality of the zoning or of the proposed warrant article, which I will do, but I also want to let you know that I, too, have spoken with County Attorney Tom Velarde. He told me that he did not see any criminal activity in Mr. Russell's complaint. He told me, Tom Velarde, the county attorney, that he did not see any validity to Mr. Russell's criminal complaint, that he did not see any criminal conduct, that he had told Mr. Russell that, and that he had not yet been able to put that in writing. But I anticipate we will have it before October 18th when you all vote. As to the petitioned warrant article, I wrote a letter earlier this month, and I understand it's been made public, but let me just read you the relevant portion. RSA 41.8 gives the select board the authority and the duty to manage the prudential affairs of the town. This includes the authority to hire and fire employees, such as Mr. MacGyver. Moreover, town meeting has given the selectmen the authority to appoint a treasurer. The voters cannot now usurp that authority. So even if the article passes as written, It will be advisory only. It will not be binding on the selectmen. Thank you very much.
Okay, the select people collectively will have 20 minutes to speak about the warrant article.
I'm Dan Mantrek, the chair of the Select Board. The Select Board does not have a collective response to this because we did not know exactly what would be presented by Mr. Russell, so each of us will have individual response to you. In April, Mr. Russell presented the same document to the Select Board. We considered that at that time and found that, and our decision was that it did not have any merit, and we did not choose to fire either Mr. McIver or Mr. Royce. I think that this idea of having this meeting to ask you to address this takes a lot of time, and we appreciate your concern for it. I think one of the problems here is that there is some misinformation. Let me quickly review the lawsuit that he brings up and the parking issue. Parking issue was brought up in July. The road agent inspected the road, found that the parking alongside the road was damaging Toland Road. The police chief was asked if there was any legal way to stop people from parking along the shoulder. There was not, and that is part of the 61-page document that Mr. Russell has on his website. Therefore, in order to preserve the road agent decided to put on the parking area alongside the road at our expense, the town's expense. But I'd like to really address the complaints about Mr. Royce and Mr. McIver. As many of you know, Mr. Royce has served this town for 20 years or more in various boards and commissions, including the Select Board, and he has faithfully done his job as treasurer of this town. According to Mr. Russell's website, the email was sent using, his complaint was an email that was sent using the town's address, which was incorrect, and he was informed of that and did not do it otherwise. He can therefore, as a citizen, can present this. Whenever a complaint is made, that does not mean that we're going to take action. The complaint calls for the zoning enforcement officer to inspect and determine if there is a violation of the zoning ordinance. Mr. Hutchins did that in November of 2020, and he and Mr. Russell agreed that the business had grown beyond what had been issued in the permit in 2018. He said that he could correct that in, we usually have 30 days, but Mr. Russell requested 6 months, and that was granted. 6 months later, nothing had been done. Business was still in operation. There was not in a commercial area, and he had not gone to the zoning board. He came to Mr. Russell asked the Select Board to consider it. Again, he was referred to the zoning board. Did not happen. So at the end of May, which was 6 months from the original move, Mr. Russell still had not gone to the zoning board. We waited 2 months, and then the Select Board chose to authorize a lawsuit. It was the Select Board that had made this decision, and Mr. McIver only, at our direction, took any action at all. He did have to inform the neighbors that they had a right to ask the zoning board for variances, which is legal requirement, and it also requires to have openness in the government. And our experience with Mr. McIver is his great honesty and his efforts to improve this town in every way. It's Mr. McIver who has instituted policies under the direction of the Select Board that have opened up this government to much more obvious and transparency. I think if you ask any questions of him, he will be able to answer those questions. There's a website now that has town information that was instituted by him, and the budgeting process is much more transparent than before. I think that this town would be ill-served if either Mr. Royce or Mr. McIver was to be removed from office, and so I would oppose this particular warrant article.
Mr. Bailey.
Good morning, everyone. I'm glad to see so many people here. Most of you know me. I have been around in one capacity or the other for the town for 20-plus years. I am now in my last year as your selectman that you elected. What I am going to speak...
Excuse me, George, introduce yourself. They don't know who you are up in the back.
Oh, I'm George Bailey. I'm sorry. Gee. Anyway, what I'm going to speak to is the petition by Mr. Russell, and I fully disagree with Mr. Russell's petition for the following reasons. I will go to Peter Royce first. Peter Royce was counseled on his use of the email. He was at the direction of this board. And then for Mr. Connor, way back when there was, some of us are still here, when we asked Mr. Connor to be our individual to work for us with the town, and he accepted. Now, all this comes together because of the fact that you, the voting public, registered voters, are the ones that voted in all our policies and voted some of them out. All our zoning, you voted our zoning in, and some of it you voted out. Some of us agreed to it, some of us didn't, but democracy shone through, and that's what we have today. So on Mr. Russell's piece, there was a complaint made. The complaint was looked into, was handed over to Mr. Hutchins, and he in turn did your bidding. By that I mean the people that voted for all of these policies and rules is what we have. It's all of us sitting here that have to abide by the same rules and regulations you put forward to us. And that's what. And as far as Conor McIver, we gave him direct, I don't want to say the word orders, but we gave him direction on what we wanted him to do to serve you. So this part is what we have to do. We cannot make the changes necessary. And I further ask you that before you vote for this amendment that's before you, you have careful consideration and understand what the ramifications can be for all of us. One last reminder that wasn't stated. With Mr. Connor's help and everything else, we did a budget last year with some of the individuals here, and we came up with $19.50 for our tax on our $1,000 worth of property. Now, I believe that's the third or fourth lowest in the state coming forward. And I mean, so the five of us and Mr. Connor.
They do.
You told me this in an email.
They do.
Not say they had 20 minutes each. Call point of order.
They have 20 minutes total. They divide it however they want to.
Who's keeping track?
They have not, they have 9 minutes left.
Okay.
They've used 9 minutes. Oh, they've used 9 minutes.
Return to them as they were rudely interrupted.
They've used 9 minutes. All right, they have used 9 minutes. They have 11 minutes left.
With what I have said, I will ask you to, again, be understanding when you vote. Thank you very much.
Select Person Sakosha.
Hey, Jim Zakosha in town, and thanks for everybody coming out on this lovely Saturday and here to do town business. This isn't an opportunity for us to go back and forth. We're here about the Warrant article today. I will be available. You guys have my number. It's on the town's website, or you could see me after if you would like any one-on-one discussions about this. But collectively, this is my 3rd year into the select board, because I wanted to come here for change and whatnot, and I wanted to get involved. And I couldn't complain until I did, because that's how I feel. In my findings of going, how can we save the town money, this, that, and the other thing, through the years, I've learned that Connor and Peter do a really good job with what they do for the town. I have to keep my comments short and sweet, but I will be available after to talk with anybody. Thank you.
Select Person Robert Gibson. 10 minutes left.
Hello, I'm Robert Gibson. I would like to thank you everyone for coming out on Saturday. It's unfortunate that such a negative and misguided warrant has made it this far. But democracy is messy at times, and yes, comes with a price tag. It is a privilege, however, that we exercise this right. The facts and whole sequence of events leading up to this deliberative session have been clearly posted on the town's website. After multiple accommodations and attempts to help this business, without resolution, the town was obliged to respond in accordance with established legal protocols. It is our duty in a non-corrupt government to adhere to rules, and legal counsel has consistently informed the town that the actions taken were appropriate. Keep in mind, Connor acted under the direction of the select board and was following their instruction each step of the way. As you heard, the select board makes the ultimate decision on hiring and firing employees. Warrant articles do not subvert that responsibility. I fully support and appreciate these employees. Furthermore, if anyone were to unjustly fire them, it would most certainly open the question of wrongful termination and defamation. In my month since joining the select board, I've had the honor of working with Connor. I have consistently been impressed with his professionalism, knowledge, communication, and transparency. Whenever I talk to someone about the select board, I reiterate how rewarding it has been to work with him. Barrington is fortunate to have someone of his caliber as administrator. Peter has been a pillar of our community for years. All I have ever heard from everyone is how dedicated he is to the town of Barrington. Connor and Peter are our neighbors, residents of our community, and call Barrington their home. We are extremely fortunate to have these outstanding and talented civil servants. I trust the people of Barrington will see through any smoke and mirrors, not be intimidated or bullied by aggressive people, and will stand strong in support of our town and its employees who protect and strengthen our community.
Okay, recognize Select Person Joyce Capiello. There are 12 minutes left.
Mr. Moderator, would it be okay if I use the podium? It's difficult for me to hold the microphone.
Certainly.
I would like to talk about how our town administrator works to provide sound fiscal management for Barrington. He actually saves our town money. But first of all, he does bring a very transparent, open budget process. We've never had our budget binder, which is like 400 pages, on the town website before. So we get real-time budget information now. He attends all the advisory budget committee meetings, and this is where the budget for the town actually is heard. Ron introduced me. I'm Joyce Capiello. I'm a select board member. He's helped us to maintain our low and stable municipal tax rate. I know you're scratching your head because your tax bills went up this year because it was the year for assessments. Our tax rate is one of the lowest around. It's in the 4th percentile when you compare it to comparable neighboring communities. He has helped do this by introducing more capital replacement plans so we don't have some of the highs and lows in our budget. So when the fire department needs a new fire truck, that money is there. We don't have to increase the tax rate for it. What I learned with coming on the select board is we have a lot of money that comes into our town that's not based on fees and taxes. So grants and other alternative funding sources. Connor himself was responsible for getting the $1.5 million to finish the town hall. He brought in another $125,000 for that town hall. He supported department heads, fire, police, and recreation. So far this year, they brought in $200,000 to our community. Because of Connor's vision and tenaciousness, we're finally going to fix the Green Hill Bridge, that very narrow bridge that's been slated for replacement for a very long time. We would be doing it this year, except the contractors said they could, because of supply chain issues, they couldn't get enough steel in. And he secured a grant for 80% of that $2.2 million cost. We are finally going to fix the Richardson Dam. That's the dam you walk over when you go to the Winnie the Pooh Trail. That's been on the list for replacement, that it's been subpar for many years. We'll get the final engineering report this year. He's already got a plan of how to secure monies, and we'll start that in 2023. He also often has shovel-ready projects, meaning if things are done, if we have an engineering report, so then when monies become available at the state or the federal level, we're ready to go. We're some of the first in line. One of our next ones for that is the Pond Hill Culvert replacement and bridge work, and that's to the tune of $1.3 million, and I'm sure we'll be securing some grants for that. In terms of planning and leadership, Connor works very well with department heads, holds regular meetings, has an open door policy. And I take very seriously what staff say about their boss. So I wanted to read this quote. Many communities waste untold amounts of money due to poor planning or bad leadership. This is not an issue in Barrington. Our department heads and Connor have the best interests of the town and work to consistently maintain and improve services, access, life, and business in the community. And in terms of our town treasurer, as you heard, he's given us more than 40 years of town service, budget committee, library trustee, transfer committee, select board, town treasurer since 2011. And comments from people that have volunteered on boards is that Peter's the historical voice of the town. If you ask Peter, why did the town do this in 1999, Peter will know the answer. That kind of historical background in terms of our management and fiscal approach is really valuable to the town. Okay. Good leadership is important for a smooth running town. Barrington has good leaders in Connor McIver and Peter Royce. Let's support them today. I do have one more thing, but I've been asked to sit down to do that. So as a select board person and a member of this community, I live at 23 Lois Lane. I'm proposing an amendment to the warrant article to see if the town will vote to encourage the select board to continue the employment of Connor McIver and Peter Royce in their current positions with the town of Barrington, and to recognize the many contributions the two have made to the town throughout their tenures.
Do we have a second?
Second that motion.
Thank you, George.
George Bailey seconds that motion. All right, we will open the floor for discussion. I would ask one volunteer, if you would, to move that crowd mic to the upper level at the front of the aisle up there, and there should be an on-off switch on it. Just so that. Is there a second? Yeah, George second. Yeah. On the upper level, Dan? Yeah, I know. Dan has earned the right to speak first. So when you want to speak, you will need to raise your voting card, because that's how we're going to determine who you are. Dan, if you would introduce yourself, that would be good. There should be an on-off switch on there. Hold on just a second.
Hear me? All right. I'm Daniel E. Ayer, 334 Old Concord Turnpike. I am ex-selectman, and I have a national gift for pissing people off. Some people agree with me, you disagree with me. I pressed charges personally against Rob Russell. I was a selectman, one of the three. Do I dislike Rob? No. And come to know himself, he's pig-headed, standing up for his rights like I am. I can shake his hand, but I don't think I could ever agree with everything. And talk about town employees and everything and stuff. For 16 years, I've been battling my neighbor. Ruined wetlands, everything, violation laws and stuff. And I know as I made a complaint to Connor about parking. I drive a 10-wheel up and down Toland Road. I pay a lot of money for that, my rights to do that. And there was cars all up and down, so I said, Connor, what's going on over here? It was a Tracy hazard for me, but I drive a commercial truck. Anything happens, I'm guilty. Doesn't matter. And, but personally, you think backdoor deals are done and stuff? Over the years, stuff, I had no favors in this town. People did their job and stuff, I had complaints and stuff. So now, I have a neighbor who never followed any of the rules and stuff. And at the time, I made the vote against Rob Russell. I thought he was in compliance. We gave him enough time and stuff. I'm a businessman. I ran on the people's voice. I tried to do the scales of justice, balance things out. And I was in a coma 3 days and stuff like that, all that. I've been legally dead twice, if not a third time. I appreciate what you went through about your service and stuff, and the guns and stuff. I believe in the Second Amendment right. As a selectman, none of this was ever brought up and stuff. And right now, we're all here wasting our time. This isn't going nowhere. The taxpayers spend. We've got 2 lawyers sitting here we're paying for. It's going to go nowhere.
1 minute.
I know about the law, and too. There's no courts that take precedence against the town and stuff. It's a joke. I've been through it. But I am going to do a legal battle against the town on my own, at my own expense. I didn't ask for a special election. I need to hire people out of state so they won't mess up the buddy system because they have to work in this town. I appreciate everyone coming here, but come to the deliberation, follow the select board's meeting, get active. Nothing's going to be done here today. We're all wasting our time and money. Thank you.
Okay, let me just remind you, we have an amendment on the floor, and that's what we're discussing now. You should be talking about whether or not you support that amendment that Select Person Capiello just made. If you need it to be read again, we can do that. Okay, the point of order. You'll have this point of order in the back. Can you come to the microphone because we can't possibly hear you, and you may need to turn it on. Yeah, there should be a switch on there, Julian. Wait a minute. Hold on, Julian, the mic is not on. It needs to be turned on.
Hear me? Testing, 1, 2, 3.
You're good.
Julian Olivier, 554 Beauty Hill Road, Barrington. Just a point of order, I'm not sure, Mr. Moderator, if we are discussing the amendment or the warrant article.
We are discussing the amendment now. All right, who was, somebody down here had a, all right, Mr. Grant.
Kent Grant, Parker Mountain Road, 372. To change the amendment, as I understand it, this used to be the 2C town. When petition warrant article used to come before the voters at deliberative session, it could be 2C, which means it gutted the article completely. The legislature went back and changed that law so that a petition warrant article cannot be changed to change its meaning or to change its content. I don't know how you can address that type of change today. And as far as that's one point that I'm making. The other point that I'm making, another point is that especially contractors in this town, it depends on who you are sometimes, the way the town is going to treat you. I especially some town official decided I shouldn't be, after 18 years, I shouldn't have a contractor's yard unless I had a permit. Regardless of the fact I was never hired by the town to do any work. Then came the allegation that I had wetlands that I was violating, and that was hearsay. And the law firm employing Mrs. Spector, she was the one that filed charges in court against me, even after I went through a couple $1,000s to hire professionals and a lawyer, which produced a letter and certification I had no wetlands. Yet it's still, Mrs. Spector still put it in the lawsuit.
Mr. Grant,
We're talking.
Mr. Grant, would you care to speak on this amendment that we're discussing
I am
now?
talking on it. It also has been spoken as to how the town handles certain affairs, and I am one of them. But the main thing is, the legislature changed the law to that so that a petition warrant article couldn't be gutted. And if you change the meaning, it's being gutted.
Mr. Grant, as we explained earlier, an amendment has to keep the same subject matter, but it can change the intent of the warrant article. That's legal. That's the way the legislature has written the law. An amendment must keep the same subject matter as the original article, but it can change the intent of that warrant article. Well, I'm sorry you don't agree, but you'll have to take that up with the legislature, because that's what we're going by. Yes, sir.
Hello, my name is Don Cochran. I live at 88 Stone Farm Road. My question is really to the Select Committee. I'm sitting in here listening to this meeting. I didn't have enough time to review Mr. Russell's 62-page document, but I think I need a little bit more cliff notes on what the lawsuit is, because I believe that's his primary complaint and where most of this has started on his end. And if you could just give us the highlights of what the lawsuit actually contains and the main pieces of it, I would really appreciate that. It's tough for me to make these kind of decisions when I know there's a lawsuit thrown out and et cetera, et cetera. That's pretty much all I had to say. So I hope the Select Board Committee can take my advice and maybe give us at least a highlights of what the important parts of this lawsuit actually are. Thank you.
The lawsuit isn't what we're discussing now. We're discussing the amendment, the proposed amendment to the article. So if you folks could speak on that.
I cannot make a decision on that without knowing that, though. You're asking me to make a decision on the thing that's upsetting this man, and I don't have both sides of the story right now. So I can't make a decision without that. I understand what we're here voting for, but I can't make a decision unless I understand what the facts are. Thank you.
Okay, just a minute. There's a gentleman in the back that's had his hand up for a while.
Point of order, Mr. Moderator.
Yes.
If I could ask the town attorney to answer that gentleman's question.
All right. Go ahead, briefly. Well, I'm sorry, but if that's going to clear things up and allow you to evaluate the amendment, we'll allow for a quick explanation.
Excuse me, can we do that after we continue the questions out here?
No, let's do this. We'll be
sidebar
right
that?
with you. Go ahead. We'll recognize the attorney.
So in response to the question was, what was the lawsuit? The lawsuit that was brought was an enforcement action because the selectmen alleged that Mr. Russell was operating his business in violation of the zoning ordinance and in violation of the permit that had been issued because he was using too much of his property to operate his business. He went to the zoning board. He sought an administrative appeal of that decision. The zoning board held that he was operating in compliance with the zoning ordinance. As a result, because the selectmen wished to honor the independence of the zoning board, the lawsuit was dropped.
Okay, gentleman on the upper level.
Is this thing on?
It should be.
Am I to understand that there's an ongoing,
State your name.
investigation?
Could you state your name and address,
My name
please?
is Paul Cumjan, 74 Bassett Drive in Barrington.
Okay, thank you.
My understanding there's an ongoing investigation that hasn't concluded yet? Is that my understanding?
A complaint has been made, a decision has not been rendered.
Exactly. So the investigative body has not rendered a decision on this yet the county, our town attorney here, decided to make sure everybody thought it's already concluded, and she decided to share that with everybody, regardless of which end it's on. I find that incredibly unethical, which is the exact reason why I'm here. Unethical, abuse of power, and that's why we're here. 19 years I've lived in this town. I've never come to a deliberative session. But after what I read, the internal emails alone, it's definitely, at the very least, extremely unethical behavior that does not belong with anybody sitting up there. And I think you know which I do not agree with changing this. It should stay as it is.
Okay, gentleman in the front.
Hey everybody, William Mube, 2400 Lane. I am
Could you repeat your name, please?
William Mube,
How do you spell the last?
M-E-U-B. M-E-U-B.
Thank you.
Okay. I support this amendment. I think it's a scary time when public servants have to worry about being intimidated for just doing their jobs. This is a complete waste of time and money. You know, we should not be wasting our precious tax dollars on a personal quest for vengeance by Mr. Russell. That's all I have to say.
Yep.
Good morning. I think it's still morning.
State your name and address, please.
My name is Karen Gould. I just registered myself as a
Point of
New
order,
Hampshire.
address, please.
Holiday Lakeshore Drive on Mendham's Pond.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I would just like to say that I support the amendment. I've had my grievances with the town, and I have put a tremendous amount of time into resolving them, but I think the town has been supportive and is equitable and fair. I would suggest that this is small town democracy at work, and I think it's wonderful. I'm delighted to be part of it. This deliberative session is a $20,000 expenditure that I'm partially responsible for. And I think grievances that we all have, that I've had for years, should be resolved without spending $20,000 of our taxpayer money. I would suggest that this town has fine, fine people. We even named streets and avenues and roads, I don't think you have avenues, after the residents. I mean, there's Scruton Pond Road, there's Lindsay Way, there's people who have contributed land for conservation and protection. This is a wonderful town, and it's safe. Well, I thought it was. I'm almost 80, and I have never been to a meeting where a gent who has a right to do it has a revolver on his waist.
Okay, what?
I never saw that.
Okay, everybody, stop.
I appreciate it. I applaud it.
Please,
and I think it's our right to do that. This is a school. This is a school. Thank you very much for the opportunity to speak.
Okay, someone has a point of order. Please come to the microphone so we can hear you.
Hello. Stephanie Castine, 161 Deer Ridge Drive, Barrington. I'm just asking if we're supposed to be looking to see if the amendment matches the original proposal. Can we please have both on the screen so that way we can look at them both?
You able to do that?
I
No,
think
we
that
can't.
would help me anyway determine whether the amendment and the original, seeing them both next to side by side.
We don't have the technology to get them both there at the same time, but we can alternate them if you like.
We can't have them both on one screen?
That's correct.
Okay.
All right, someone in the upper level had a hand up? Yes, sir.
Hello, my name is Joseph Marquette, 463 Washington Street. I've lived here since the middle of the 70s. I learned how to walk on Hall Road. I rode a bike on Beauty Hill Road. I learned how to fish in Swains Lake. So, more important things. Ethics and ethical is a thing. It's not defined by our emotions. Emotions are very strong things, and they motivate us in our life daily. But an ethical statement is a product of ethical philosophy. In my day job, I work now for over 20 years in the school systems as a teacher of Latin, Ancient Greek, and philosophy. When we start getting confused with our emotions, we lose realities of how things are working. So, this, what we're supposed to be speaking to, amendment, I remember Peter as a little boy. Peter has been serving this town valiantly for decades. Decades of service to Barrington. My mother was the town clerk of this town for 20 years. She spent a huge portion of that time being harassed by a man who got up to speak today. I know what they put up with every day. I sat with my mother listening to it for 20 years. Connor is doing an excellent job. It is not easy to find people to do excellent work. We are privileged to have somebody come here and do good work. Now, as a teacher of rhetoric, I specialize specifically in how we speak. Mr. Russell got up today and said summarily nothing.
1 minute left, sir.
That is the truth. And as a teacher, just so you know, I will be teaching this. What we're doing is ancient Greece in action. Okay? Not point of order. I am letting you know why I support this. I support it because we are being attacked in our town by the emotions of someone who wants revenge, which is why the signs in those colors with the grand hyperbolic word corruption say what they're saying. It is to excite emotion in you and make you feel that something is wrong in Barrington. What we have is one of the best governments in Barrington we have had in a long time. Thank you, Peter. Thank you, Connor.
Hey, gentleman way over in the corner.
Mark Wilson, Edgewater Drive in Barrington. Boy, I only had one thing, but that just brought up something. O.J. Simpson was a great football player until he killed somebody. And I've heard a bunch of people talk about all the past, all the really good things that have been happening, but we're really dealing with that. So if we could limit our comments to that, I'd appreciate it. But in any case, my one thing is the very first board member that stood up said an email did not exist on town on the town site. The very second selectman that stood up said he was counseled on this. So either it existed or it didn't. And if it did not exist, as the first one said, then why was he counseled, as the second one said? So I just have a question.
Sir in the upper level there? Gentleman on the upper level, just a minute.
Good morning. Bill Irving, 132 Waterhouse Road. I am in support of this amendment. We're really in the weeds here, folks. This is a zoning enforcement action the town is taking because Mr. Russell's business has exceeded the scope of the permit. You drive by there on a regular basis, and there's cars all over the place. He's running a retail business out of his residence. It's pretty simple.
Mr. Russell, he has the floor.
The town is taking enforcement action to bring him in compliance with the codes that we have. I support that. I think you're doing a fine job, and I am in support of this amendment. Thank you.
Gentleman over here.
Hi, Jonathan Dearborn, 14 Mast Road. I want to point out that this amendment probably does not change the fact that we would have to vote on things. It's not going to save us any money by voting up or down this particular amendment. This amendment, what I'd like to see is that as a town, we respect the petitioner's actions and feelings about this, regardless of how we feel about the warrant article, and regardless of what the law requires, it feels inappropriate that we try to change the intent of the warrant article. Thank you.
Okay. Go ahead, Ken.
While we're waiting, could I just make a point of order to have a clarification about the email? Did you say that there was an email?
I did say there was an email. I believe that's incorrect, Mr. Wilson. I did say there was an email.
Okay.
Ken Grossman, Scruton Pond Road.
Yeah, hold on one second, Ken.
Is that what he said? I can't
You okay?
hear. Never mind.
All right, okay, go ahead, Ken. Yep.
Hi, I'm Ken Grossman, Scruton Pond Road. I'm speaking in support of this amendment. And here's why. I agree a little bit with the fellow who just spoke in front of me, that everybody ought to have an opportunity to take sides. And the amendment allows everybody to take sides, because if you don't want to encourage the select board to continue the employment of Connor McIver and Peter Royce, then if that's on the ballot in October, you simply vote no. What this amendment leaves out is the contentious parts. There are 3 bullet points on the original petition. They're contentious. Some of them seem speculative, some of them seem based on hearsay, some of them are based on he said, she said kinds of things. This leaves all that out, and it allows a simple up and down vote. You want to encourage the select board to continue the employment, or you don't. Vote yes or vote no. I'm going to vote yes.
Okay. Man in the box.
Eric Schoenbucker, 144 Boulder Drive. I don't agree with this amendment. I don't think it's going to matter what goes up. We're going to have to vote anyway. Everybody on the select board here who will have to make the decision based on the warrant article have already said they're not going to fire the 2 people in question. I believe we're wasting our time even going forward with trying to have a vote on the amendment. Thank you.
Okay, Michael?
Thank you. I'm Michael Houst, 48 Serenity Way. On this warrant article, it is the changing of the wording in that was originally from remove to encourage to go and continue employment, which is in keeping with the policy of going and having a positive statement on warrant articles. I would go and move to strike the second clause to recognize the many contributions. Contributions was not part of the original warrant article. Thank you.
Okay, anyone else? Over there in the corner? Your choice of microphones from up there. Just a minute,
Hi.
sir. The gentleman up on the upper level is first.
Hi, my name's Rick Seneschal, 19 Kelly Lane.
Okay, excuse me. No, we're not taking amendments to amendments. The way we typically change an amendment is to have the person that proposed it withdraw it, and then we, propose a new one with the new language. So unless the person who proposed the amendment is willing to do that, excuse me, just a second. Let's finish one part first. I can only process so many things at once. Okay. They wanted to know if you wanted to change the amendment to reflect the
I
language.
understand Michael House's point, but I will leave the amendment as it stands.
Okay, leave the amendment as is. Could you come to the mic because we can't hear you up here very well? Yes,
me?
if you have another question. Part of order. We're operating under my rules of order. And what is your name, please?
Seamus Casey, Michael Point Road.
Thank you. Okay, sir, in the back.
Again, my name's Rick Seneschal. I live at 19 Kelly Lane. I haven't lived here my whole life. I've had to deal with the zoning board here, all right? And I truly believe that zoning is important because my rights as a property owner are just as important as my neighbor's rights as a property owner. My experience with our zoning board is that they don't seem to see things all equal for everybody. I've seen them put people trying to start businesses through hell, and I've seen them seal and push big things through under whatever guise because it's what they want.
Sir, excuse me a second. This is not about the zoning board. Could you speak on the amendment?
It is because I feel it is because if he's having problem with the zoning boards, we need some form of a reproach because when you're the person who they drop a 200,000 square foot factory in your backyard and your house and bed vibrates every night when the fans kick on, but that was deemed appropriate for our new mixed-use village, he has a right to question. I was, honestly, initially, I was so against what I was going to come here, but the more I learned, the more I read, the more I hear, and what my personal experience with the zoning board is, and how they accomplish things, and how they can twist these articles that we vote for to whatever it is they want. A factory that's loaded with milling machines is the same as a dentist's office. In a mixed use that was designed for a village center and approved by the voters for a village center, I think we have to seriously consider, is he actually being treated fairly? Honestly, I'm not sure he is. Maybe he is. But he has rights, his neighbors have rights, and that's all I have to say. Are people using their position, and maybe they're not, are people using their position to further their own agendas?
Okay, any further comments on the proposed amendment? Yes, a lady way in the back.
Carolyn Robbins, Chesley Drive. I support the proposed amendment, and I'll give you a couple of reasons why. One is Mr. Russell himself admitted that there was no illegal actions by the two people he put up to be fired. So they haven't done anything illegal. I haven't seen evidence of anything unethical either. But I don't think that most of us see the day-to-day activities that are going on behind the scenes to really know whether there are true unethical things being done. What I do know is that we elect a board of people who that's their job. And if you look at the Board of Selectmen, if you follow those elections, there is an extremely wide range of political stances among those 5 people up there. And every single one of them said they were against that original article. And so I am choosing to trust the people that we elected, some of whom I did not vote for, but the majority of the people who voted for them, in their opinion that there's no founding for the original article. And that is why I support this amendment, to support both Peter and Connor in their positions, because I believe that the people that we elected are doing ethically and legally and responsibly their job, and that they wouldn't allow someone in those positions to remain if they were acting unethically or illegally.
Point of order. Point of
You
order.
said
Russell.
at one point that you believe
Point of
there was
order.
no illegal activity by the 2 members.
Excuse
Point
me.
of
Hey,
order.
The people in the
Point-
back of the room laughed
Miss-
hysterically when you said that. You did say that.
Okay.
Hey, point of order.
Mr. Russell, we are not conducting a debate between the 2 of you here, okay? Well, Mr. Russell, please sit down. Okay? Andy? Got a point of order first.
The point of order is, sorry, what? Andrew Knapp, point of order. Everyone here gets a chance to speak fairly and without being interrupted. My point of order is if Mr. Russell cannot contain his emotion, I'm asking that he be removed from the room.
All right, I have overlooked a gentleman that's been patiently waiting down here. Let's let him speak next.
Craig McGraw, 1324 Franklin Pierce Highway. I tore some cartilage in my trachea Thursday, so I'm going to make this short. I don't agree with the amendment only because Mr. Russell put forward a warrant article for everybody to vote on that. I feel by changing that warrant article, you are taking away that man's voice and the ability for the town to actually vote on his article. Whether you're for it or against it, by changing it in itself is unethical. You're not giving the man the platform that he's requesting.
It'll be Jenny and then the gentleman up in the back.
Good morning. My name is Jenny Wilson, and I live on 34 Edgewater Drive. And I heard the members of the Select Board talk about democracy. This is democracy. The First Amendment tells us that we have the right to petition our government for the redress of grievances. He's exercising, Mr. Russell is exercising his First Amendment right. And all I hear from the Select Board is how much money they have saved you. This is a Goliath against David. And you need to think very hard, because it's not about money, it's about ethics. It's about giving people a voice and letting them go through the process and not be coward. Okay? Thank you.
Greg Fowler, Oak Hill Road. We do not need this amendment. If we say no to this amendment, the warrant article will be coming up in October, and we can vote yes or no on that, whether we support the change or not.
Okay. Yep. And Mrs. Huckins, you'll be next.
Hello, everybody. My name is Michael Martin. I'm on Sloper Road in Barrington. The biggest reason I do not
Can you get closer, sir, please?
The biggest reason I don't support this amendment is I just overheard that two letters were sent saying somebody was shooting machine guns in their backyard of a populated area, and this gentleman did not report that to the police. I find that a dereliction of duty.
Cheryl Huckins, 70 Huckins Lane, Barrington. I've been a Barrington resident for 30 years. Let me get this out of here. There. I've been a Barrington resident for 30 years. I worked for the town for 20 years, and I have, for two reasons, I do support this amendment. The first being that after working for the town for 20 years, I can attest that this current administration is the absolute best we've ever had. I have complete faith in Connor. And I have to tell you honestly, when I first met him, he was so young, I was kind of scared. But this young man has surprised me. He's highly intelligent, he's incredibly honest, and he runs this town very, very well. Secondly, I agree with this amendment because the original petition targets the wrong person. Every selectman up here has attested that Connor works at their pleasure and under their direction. Anything he's done at the direction of the selectmen. If they terminated him, they would be terminating him for doing what they asked him to do or told him to do. If he didn't do it, he would be derelict in his duties. So, if you want to target the correct person, I suggest that Mr. Russell puts forth a petition to unseat all 5 of our selectmen, because those are the people that directed Connor to do his job. As far as Peter Royce goes, I've known Peter for many years. If he sent an email under his town email, it was an error. I know this man. He loves this town. He's dedicated his life to this town. And just like many other people in that area, he complained. People have a right to complain, whether we are town officials or not. But in any case, I support this amendment because, number one, Connor is a wonderful town administrator. We're very lucky to have him. And number two, Mr. Russell's petition attacks the wrong person. This is nothing more than a vendetta against Connor, and I would really hope that the good people in this town do not stand behind that kind of action. Thank you.
Yeah. One more over here, and then you can go, sir.
Joanne Hack, 200 Ham Road, Barrington. My question is, why are certain people afraid of having the warrant article go before the voters? The people of Barrington should be able to vote on that warrant article, and you can vote no to it, and whoever wants it can vote yes, and that way we all get our vote. This gutting of the original article means nothing, okay? I have no personal involvement in this, and I don't know any of the people involved. I just want the people at Barrington to be able to go to the voting place, look at the ballot, read the article, and research it hopefully beforehand, and decide, yes or no. That's it. Why are you so afraid that it's going to get on the ballot? I don't get it. Thank you.
I'm Michael Wally, 14 Hunter Lane, and just questioning the original article would allow us as a community to basically terminate 2 folks with 141 signatures of customers, all right? That would allow that decision to go through for the entire town, all right? By then, yes, right? The amendment wouldn't allow, it sets a dangerous precedent if we're going to allow town officials to be terminated from a personal vendetta. We cannot allow that. If you don't like how your street's plowed, next time around it's going to be against that worker because you didn't like it. So we need to make sure that we fully understand the precedent that would be set for future town employees. It would be a mess. It's not good stuff. Just think of it that way. Thank you.
Okay, we'll take one more comment from the back, and then I'm going to call for a vote. We're not revealing any new information here, so go ahead, sir. Yeah, yes.
My name is Edward Brito. I live at 116 Pond Hill Road. We're all in here. We all live in the same town. We've had a great oration from my citizen in the back. I got everything that's going on. We've been in here for a long day. Can we, as the administrator that I have that's on the podium, finally put down everybody's emotions and aggravations on this, bring the thing to a vote. We're all voters, we're all taxpayers, and we're all citizens of this town. We're not going to argue or conduct anything else today. Let's just get the vote over, and if it goes forward, it goes forward. If it dies today, then it dies today. But we all made a choice because we all decided to show up here as voters and citizens in this town. And throughout this, kind of both sides, all right, we have not stuck with what the amendments are, what the articles are that proposed. Now let's get on track. The man's got the podium. Let's just take a vote, and as the rest of us that all live in this town, go home, get on with it. Thank you.
I hope it's that easy. A vote is going to be a little complicated with this many people. Anyway, I will read the amendment again that you're going to vote on. I'm sorry? Okay, what's the... Could you come to the microphone so everyone can hear?
My name is Christine O'Hara from 4 Deer Ridge Drive in Barrington. I would like a clarification. George, you indicated that Mr. Royce used his town letterhead. You had a discussion, is what you said. We had a discussion explaining to him that he could not do that. Did he or did he not use his town letterhead on one of his letters out for this matter?
I did not speak to the fact of anything that he wrote or mailed out. I spoke to the fact that he used the server to send an email out.
Did he use his town letterhead?
No. There's no...
I didn't say it was a terminal offense. I want a clarification because my opinion is if he did, then what he did was abuse his position. Not to say he did horrible in his job. I'm not saying that. I'm saying if he used his letterhead to send out these emails, then he abused the power of his position. I have no idea about Connor. I do know that if they abuse the power of their position, then they have more power than the individual who is out here, than any one of us. And we can't have that because in the reality, it's just not fair. So I have to make a vote. That's what we're here for. So can you clarify?
Well, she's in the midst of one. But all right. Well, it's...
It is to me. I have to vote today, too.
Okay. Well, you let me...
To be able to make the decision, it is.
Let me rule on this, please. I feel that she is trying to clarify whether or not she can support this amendment based on that answer. All right?
Could I respond?
We can have one quick response from one select person.
He did not use letterhead. He used his email address, which department heads, select board members, the moderator, other individuals in town have a authorization to use the town email. When you, everybody here, could turn around and send me a letter on an email, I should say, that it would go to the town server and it would be distributed to my email address. That's what happened was he used his email address for a non-town entity and he was counseled on that. There was no letterhead accompanies our email address.
Okay, everybody. I am exercising my option to limit debate. I'm going to call for a vote on this amendment, proposed amendment, which I will read now. Okay, and remember, because you're only going to have a yes/no ballot. All right, the proposed amendment reads, to see if the town will vote to encourage the select board to continue the employment of Connor McIver and Peter Royce in their current positions with the town of Barrington, and to recognize the many contributions the two have made to the town throughout their tenures. All right, I would ask the supervisors of the checklist to take up a position up in the hall. What we're going to do, and this is going to take a while, we're going to file out that door up there. You have to go through the supervisors again to check in. You'll receive a yes/no ballot. Just mark it simply with an X in either the yes or the no. Don't do both. Don't do neither. Do one or the other so we can count it. And then my assistant will put that ballot into a ballot box up there. This is going to take a while. This will be a great opportunity to go to the bathroom. After you vote, come in this lower door down here so we don't have a collision.
Hey, Ron,
Hey.
can you confirm a no is against this? People are asking me.
A yes, please listen for a second. A yes vote is in favor of adopting this amendment. A no vote is opposed to adopting this amendment.
And the amendment is to insert this in place of the original.
Well, yeah. Right, this amendment would replace the original article. Okay. Please have your IDs ready again when you go see the supervisors. All right, thank you for your patience and cooperation in getting through that. I know that was pretty complicated, and special thanks to our supervisors of the checklist who have had an incredible job today. Okay, the vote on the proposed amendment, yes, 158, no, 99. So the amendment passes.
Mr. Chairman,
So now that, the wording of that amendment replaces the original article at this point. Is it? And state your name, please. All right, a motion to restrict reconsideration.
Second.
And is seconded by George Bailey. All right, you understand that that will end debate on this article entirely. It'll essentially end what we have to do. We're going to take a vote with your voting cards, and I've asked two people to count the cards just so we don't have to take a wild guess. Norm and Chris, if I can have you both. Chris, where are you? I'm sorry, we're going to vote by voting card, but I just have two people that are going to count cards when we get them up here. Chris, well, we haven't voted yet. I'll tell you when to vote. I'm looking. I'll tell you in a minute. Do I have my other counter here? It was Chris Sawyer. Where did he go? There you are. Come on up, Chris. Take one of these, if you would. Okay. You just push this to count, ascertain that they're both on 0. All right, we're going to have Norm count the people on the floor down here. Chris, you count people standing on the side and in the back. And Norm, you also count the front table, if you would. All right, we're voting on the motion to restrict reconsideration of this article. If you vote yes and that passes, we can no longer discuss this article. That ends discussion of the warrant article, which is now the amended warrant article. If you vote no, and that is the winning side, then we can continue to talk about things. Okay? Is everybody clear on what you're voting on? Okay. All those in favor of restricting reconsideration of this article, raise your voting card and keep them up, because these guys are going to count. You can wander around through the crowd if you need to. I'm not going to vote on this. Probably put it on the table somewhere. I probably have it.
We have to hold it up the whole time? Good. Good. There you go, guys. Hey, all right. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, now reset those to 0. Just turn them till they're zeros. Zero. Okay, all those who wish to vote no on reconsideration, raise your cards. Okay, thank you, Chris. We're good? 37. Okay. All right, thank you so much. Okay, the vote to restrict reconsideration, the yes is 109, no is 60. So reconsideration of this article is restricted, which means we can no longer discuss this article. With that being said, I would entertain a motion to end the deliberative session. Wait a minute, I need to know who moved. Who? Rick Walker moved. Second by who? Andrew Knapp. Okay, all those in favor of ending the deliberative session, raise your cards. All those opposed? Okay, thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of this beautiful Saturday.